Hey everyone. So for our PBL presentation, we're going to be looking at how maternity leave is affecting employment opportunities within Canada. Stephen, did you want to introduce us?
Yep. Hi, everyone. This PBL presentation is on behalf of myself, Stephen Douglas, and Brandon Ullman. This presentation will be highlighting current parental leave, maternity leave issues in Canada, and how certain social justice issues are rising and how they can be amended.
And you know what? Just the mere idea of childbirth or becoming a parent is stressful enough and very daunting. So add on top of that the worry and fear of your job security and your ability to provide for your family. It's a wonder that people are still having babies at all. So we'll kind of lead in here. Stephen, did you want to start with your personal connection to this assignment and kind of how we came to research this whole area? I can touch on it also.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. My current employment situation, I was in one particular department of a financial institution, and I got moved into a new department because one of my coworkers went on maternity leave last year, and just this week they returned from their 1 year maternity leave, and it's just been pretty interesting seeing how my own work situation has been affected by maternity leave and watching my coworkers reintegration back into the workplace now with their training and their getting up to speed and just how they've handled their maternity leave process um, in contrast to the cases that we'll be elaborating on in this case in this presentation.
Yeah, and my connection too is kind of on the same level where I'm a father of three little girls, and my wife's on her second maternity leave, and she's on her way back to work shortly, actually, in the next few months here. And she's kind of in this situation where she has, different stores that she's worked for asking her, are you returning? Are you not? Well, why would you? You have three kids at home. So it's just, kind of funny, all these misconceptions. So I guess we'll just get right into it here. And I guess I'll run us off here with the first introduction. So we're looking at a story of Veronica Wong. And she was a sales manager for a Vancouver apparel company. She had been working for them for over 3 years, and after their encouragement, she decided to take some time off to have a baby. Stephen, did you want to do the second paragraph here?
Yeah. So Veronica and her employer worked out a plan. Her boss would hire an interim sales manager who would transfer to another team when Veronica's mat leave ended. Um, Veronica was 33 at the time, and she was promised that when she would return to her firm, that she would resume the same duties that she oversaw when she left. She worked up until the day before for January 2009 delivery. She felt secure knowing that her job would be there when she got back, and her employer promised her that she would be able to transition slowly back into her position.
So we'll have to see with some investigation what happens here. But one poll we have here from the Ministry of Labor is basically right at the top of anything related to maternity leave within the government of Canada, and it's the right to be free from penalty. So it states that employers cannot penalize an employee in any way because the employee took a pregnancy or parental leave, plans to take a pregnancy or parental leave, is eligible for or becoming eligible for one of these leaves. So we'll see here. Stephen, did you want to introduce the next story?
So our next story.
Sorry, I know we're on two separate screens here.
Our next story follows. Our next story follows Caroline James. She was demoted after her first maternity leave, um, and fired after her second maternity leave. In 2004, she had begun working as an office manager for a vet in West Vancouver. Like Veronica Wong, James thought she had a good relationship with her boss, but then she was shifted into a receptionist role after her first maternity leave ended in 2009. Her placement was permanently installed, her replacement was permanently installed in her old managerial position. James stayed in the office through her second pregnancy. When complications occurred around her 8th month, she went on sick leave and then on maternity leave.
Yeah, so in September
Brandon, you want to
2011,
elaborate?
yeah, sure, I'll finish off. In September 2011, she returned to work. 6 weeks later, she was laid off, and her boss claimed that she could no longer afford such a large staff. When she hired someone to replace her soon after, James got legal advice, and after being contacted by James's lawyer, her former boss offered her a measly 2 weeks of severance, and unfortunately at the time she accepted. Now she does say, "I wish I had stuck with the lawsuit," she says now at 30, "but I couldn't handle it at the time." In September 2011, oh, sorry about that. So we'll look here just at a comparison. And yeah, it's just, an interesting story here. Just to end on that story is basically, you know, you can kind of see that you're in this situation, and this is obviously, in 2011. So, society now, you can't be not working, especially if you're, uh, supporting a family. It's just, it's basically impossible. So, she was offered this 2 week severance. We don't really have a value to compare to that. You could probably say maybe $1,500, $2,000, but you could only imagine if that had gone to court and you got the right lawyer. Who knows? But there's so many cases where you can't come forward or you can't fight the legal battle. Anyway, I'll look at this chart here and then we can move right into the steps as we looked at in social justice course. So this just kind of shows an overview of paid and unpaid leave within different countries, and you can kind of see just to the right here, this is where we want to focus, is down to the United States. So you can kind of see they're in all green under unpaid leave. So women are taking upwards of 10, 15, 20 weeks in the States, but none of them are paid. So how does that burden a mother, and how can she possibly stay at home to raise her child when there's absolutely no support? Um, so, Stephen, do you want to lead us into our steps here?
Yep, sure.
Perfect, thanks.
So
All
we
right.
focused on a number of different steps from the PBL step tool. Steps concerning stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination were most applicable to our case. Steps 2, 3, and 4, that includes biases as well. Um, so step 2, the biases. Um, an example of the bias in these cases. The mother wants to come back to the job as it was, while the employer needs her to do the job as it exists today. And that was the employer's kind of rationalization, or from the perspective of the employer, that's their rationalization for perhaps dismissing an employee upon return from mat leave. Um, and Veronica Wong's response in that case to that bias was, I understand that this was a small company and things shift. If my duties changed, that's okay, but things need to be on an even keel to what it was like before.
Right.
So that was a good example of the biases that kind of build up in these situations.
And I know, Stephen, you outlined really well about a week or so ago when we were in the midst of some research, and you said like the even keel should be better defined. Like in the section of the article under discrimination, Schumacher wasn't happy with taking a significant step down in responsibilities while still receiving the same salary as before. So as per the statement above, it doesn't look like Wong had a problem with her job change or responsibilities with her first mat leave. And then we see post mat leave, moms are no longer invited to work, after parties or for what they call power drinks, and they're kind of overlooked for demanding projects. So usually people think they're, I guess, helping. So I guess we'll go into step 3 here under stereotypes, and I'll lead us off here. So about 80% of 300 women she interviewed for an upcoming book were frustrated by the belief that the new moms want to take it easy. They complained that as soon as they announced their pregnancy, their managers assumed they preferred to downshift.
Yeah, so that was the sentiment coming from a lot of the women that were being interviewed for this book by Schumacher. Um, then just to elaborate on that, in interviews with Steph advised them to avoid such assumptions. One of the females that she was interviewing for her book, often she says, the reverse is true. Motherhood helps women sharply focus their career goals. So that would be the contrast to that assumption that employers have this assumption that mothers, they're so busy and preoccupied with this child that they can't possibly have the same level of focus and commitment to the job that they've had beforehand, and that isn't the case. And but it should also be noted that this could apply more to women in more executive positions. I'm not sure if we were going to touch on that one point, Brendan, that I made when I introduced this question to some of my female coworkers. Just to briefly touch on that.
Yeah, I do remember what you had said, and I'm just trying to remember what exactly it was. But I remember.
Because when I brought this issue up to a number of my female coworkers, they weren't senior managers or in executive positions. They were the same job level that I was. Job level like 3 out of.
I remember what you said. Sorry, I was trying to bring up my notes here as you were saying that, and I remember you'd said that when you had brought it up that none of them were executives or managers, and that they were more or less operations administrations, like in a similar job that you're involved in, and they all expressed that if they were able to take the step down in responsibilities while still receiving the same pay, they would take that deal because from their perspective, they're getting more value out of the job. Is that about right? In terms of energy spent and the monetary gain?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And so it can be argued like that, some women do gain that really sharp focus from having a child or having multiple children, and they are able to translate that into the workplace. Whereas for some women, it may not be a priority as much to really apply that new ability to multitask to their job. Some of them truly do appreciate having some more breathing room in the workplace.
Well, that brings us right into step 4, prejudice. And we'll look at, apparent judgments as we covered in class. So attitudes are formed without valid or sufficient evidence. So younger women as opposed to older women, first kids as opposed to multiple kids. So you kind of just reach these prejudice that, this is kind of the norm, right? And or what we're led to believe. So Schumacher was an art director for 7 years, and she personally trained her replacement before going on mat leave. While she was away, the company was sold, and her infill worker left and was replaced by a stranger. So this person in my role stayed on, says Schumacher, about her return to work. So when she was given back her duties, she went from an art director to managing an Excel spreadsheet, she says, and her new supervisor was friendly but not interested in her ideas. So although her salary didn't change, it wasn't the point to her, and it was clearly not allowed. She was clearly not allowed to fulfill her hard work that she worked so hard to do and to train to do and to go to school. So it's a prejudice is very apparent in this situation. Stephen, did you want to talk to the steps that we kind of to the left side of our presentation where we have kind of the steps that were not as evident with our PBL?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So steps 1, 5, 6, and 7. Those steps are the steps this role were harder to
You
apply.
know what, Steven? Sorry, I apologize. I'm just going
The
to pause the recording, and we're going to record it, the second part here. Thanks. Just one sec.